Hello, children. Welcome to study time. I, Anita Vikas Kadam from HA High School, managed by Deccan Education Society, welcome you for an interesting English lesson. Are you ready with me? So let's see the lesson, Let's March. 2.5, Let's March. So here you will see all the Nobel Prize winners with Indian origin. We have learned the first poem and we have seen Rabindranath Prize in the year 1913. 1930, C.V. Raman. 1968, Hargobind Khurana. 1979, Mother Teresa. 1983, Subramanyam Chandrasekhar. 1998, Amartya Sen. 2009, Venki Ramakrishnan. 2014, Kailash Satyarthi. 2019, Abhijit Banerjee. So today, let's see about the Peace Nobel Prize winner, Kailash Satyarthi. Kailash Satyarthi was born on 11 January 1954, is an Indian social reformer who campaigned against child labor in India and advocated the universal right to education. In 2014, he was the co-recipient of Nobel Peace Prize along with Malala Yousafzai. Means these two people got the prize together for their struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. He is the founder of multiple social activist organizations, including Bachpan Bachao Andolan, Global March Against Child Labor, Global Campaign for Education, and Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation. Kailash Satyarthi and his team at Bachpan Bachao Andolan have liberated more than 88,000 children in India from child labor, slavery, and trafficking. In 1998, Satyarthi conceived and led the global march against child labor, an 80,000 kilometer long march across 103 countries put forth a global demand against worst forms of child labor. Global march means what? All across the world. From 103 countries, people all marched for this noble cause against child labor. This became one of the largest social movements ever on behalf of exploited children. The demands of the marchers, which included children and youth, were reflected in the draft of ILO Convention 182 on the worst forms of child labor. The following year, the convention was unanimously adopted at the ILO conference in Geneva. He has served on the board and committee of several international organizations, including the Center for Victims of Torture, International Labour Rights Fund, and COCO Initiative. Satyarthi was among Fortune magazine's World's Greatest Leaders in 2015 and featured in LinkedIn's Power Profile list in 2017 and 2018. Satyarthi led a nationwide march, Bharat Yatra, in India, covering 19,000 kilometers in 35 days to demand for legislation against child rape, child sexual abuse, and trafficking. So let's see about Kailash Satyarthi in this lesson, Let's March. Children, this is the speech given at the time when he received this award. And this is the extract of that speech. Are you there with me? So we are there at Norway when he is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. Here you can see Alfred Nobel's picture which is given as a prize for peace. And this year also, in the month of September, all the people who are recipients of this year received the prize. I'm sure you must have read about them in the newspapers. So let's see, let's march. My dear children of the world, Your Majesties, Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, dear brother Tom Harkin, brothers and sisters, and my dear daughter Malala. Isn't it a perfect beginning for a speech? Are you all understanding? We also speak about the speech writing. This is how it should be. From this podium of peace and humanity. By the way, who is this talking? It's Kailash Satyarthi himself. From this podium of peace and humanity, I am deeply honored to recite a mantra from the ancient text of wisdom, Vedas. This mantra carries a prayer, an aspiration and resolve that has the potential to liberate humanity from all man-made crises. Aspiration, a wish, an ardent wish that this should resolve and liberate, free the humanity from what? Man-made crises. There are some natural crises and some crises made by man. So child labor is a man-made crisis and he wants to liberate. Let's work together in the pursuit of global progress. Not a single person should be left out or left behind in any corner of the world. He's saying all of us need to work together, and it should be the aim of global progress. He is not talking about one particular city, one country, or a group of countries, or this continent or that continent. Is talking about the global, the whole world together. He is thinking about the progress, and when this progress will be, when children are away from child labor. He's saying from east to west, from south to north. Let's speak together. Let our minds come together, learning from the experiences of our ancestors. Let us together create knowledge for all that benefits all. I bow to my late parents. So as he is receiving this award, he is honoring his parents. And here it talks about late parents. That means his parents are no more. I bow to my late parents, my motherland, India, and to the Mother Earth. With a warm heart, I recall how thousands of times I have been liberated, freed. How can one person be freed thousands of times? He's saying every time he freed a child from the child labor, he himself was freed. Each time I have freed a child from slavery. In the first smile of freedom, on their beautiful faces, I see God's smiling. When the children are into the dungeon of child labor, slavery, and not enjoying their childhood, and when he goes and frees them, and he takes them, he rescues them, and they are free to follow their childhood dreams. And when he sees the smile on their face, the first smile, he sees that God is smiling. I give the biggest credit of this honor to my moments, Kallu Kumar, Doom Das, and Adarsh Kishore from India, and Iqbal Masih from Pakistan, who made the supreme sacrifice for protecting the freedom and dignity of children. Dignity, self-respect. So he is not the only person who is working for it. It's always a team. So he wants to acknowledge the names of those people also, because he himself is receiving on behalf of everybody who is part of this struggle movement against the child labor. I humbly accept this award on behalf of all such martyrs. Martyrs, people who have sacrificed their lives. My fellow activists across the world and my countrymen. My journey from the great land of Lord Buddha. Land of Lord Buddha, in the way he is talking about our own country, India. Guru Nanak and Mahatma Gandhi. India to Norway is a connect between the two centers of global peace and brotherhood, ancient and modern. So we come from the land where always been talking about peace, and not only in the modern times, but right from the ancient time. The Nobel Committee has generously invited me to present a lecture. Lecture or talk. So he is being asked to present a lecture in front of all the people. Respectfully, I am unable to do that because I am representing here the sound of silence, the cry of innocence, and the face of invisibility. He's saying he is supposed to talk, but he is unable because he is representing somebody. He is representing those children who have become silent, and their silence he is going to represent here. Means what? He is going to unheard plea of the deprived. This deprived, nobody is hearing to their silence. He is representing that sound here. The cry of the innocence and the face of invisibility. Here you will see those antitheses, sound as well as silence. There is face as well as invisibility. Who is this face of invisibility? The unnoticed, suffering, poor and innocent children. So when he is representing all of them, how can he talk? That is what he is asking. I represent millions of those children who are left behind. And that's why I have an empty chair here as a reminder. So in that big hall where he was delivering the lecture, an empty chair was placed, and he's saying this empty chair belonged to all those children to whom he is representing. I have come here only to share the voices and dreams of our children, because they are all our children. And he gesturing means he's showing to everybody, all children. He's not talking about my country or your country. All the children of this world that he wants to represent. I have looked into their frightened and exhausted eyes. So you can see the fear in their eyes. And those eyes are exhausted. Exhausted of what? Tired of what? Tired of crying. Tired of waiting for the solutions. I have held their injured bodies. The bodies are tarnished. They are injured. But you know, the body can be made good. But he's talking about the broken spirits. The souls are also injured, which is very difficult to make it, revive it. 20 years ago, in the foothills of Himalayas, I met a small, skinny child laborer. Skinny, a very thin boy. And he was a child laborer. He was working. He asked me, is the world so poor that it cannot give me a toy and a book? Instead of forcing me to take a gun or a tool. So the small children also have lots of questions. And that small child is asking him, when he started this work 20 years back, and the child said, the world is so poor. To a child, can't that world give He's not talking about one person. It's anybody and everybody in the world. Can't they give me one toy, one book, which is necessary for a child? Rather, what have they given him? They have given him a gun, a tool, and made him a labor. I met with a Sudanese child soldier. He was kidnapped by an extremist militia. As his first training lesson, he was forced to kill his friends and family. Can you see? The country of Sudan, a child was kidnapped and he was trained to become an extremist, a terrorist. And in the training process, what was he taught? What was he made to do? He was made to kill his own friends and family. What he might be undergoing through. And he has one question to all of us. He's saying, what is my fault? Friends, all the great religions teach us to care for our children. Jesus said, let the children come to me. Do not hinder them. Stop them. Jesus is saying that let the children, all the religion is talking about good for the children. Let the children come because the kingdom of God belongs to them. The Holy Quran says, kill not your children because of poverty. So when all religion is talking good about children, why are we practicing all this? Friends, there is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. So we are talking about world war. We are talking about other types of war. But here he is telling the greatest violence is denying the dreams. Children have small dreams for themselves. And when you deny them, that is the violence. Therefore, I refuse to accept that all the temple and mosque and churches and prayer houses have no place for the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that all the laws and constitution, police and judges are unable to protect our children. So if we have all these good things like constitution, police, and so many good things, then why our children have to suffer? I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery, shackles, the chains that are binding, the slavery that is, stopping the children from going to school or living their childhood. So that all has to be, that cannot be stronger than the quest, search. Then the quest for freedom. If everyone is having that feeling for freedom, then how can these chains bind these children? I refuse to accept here. My only aim in life is that every child is free to be a child, free to grow and develop, free to eat, sleep, and see daylight, free to laugh and cry, free to play and learn, free to go to school, and above all, free to dream. Is that a big thing, children? That all children in this world should enjoy all those things. They should grow, they should eat, sleep, they should see the beautiful sunlight, they should laugh, cry, play, learn, go to school, and dream. Is that such a big thing to expect from every child, to expect from the whole world? I have the privilege of working with many courageous people who have the same aim. We have never given up against any threat or attack, and we never will. So he has a team of people, and when they are working for the betterment of the children, do you think they are everywhere welcomed? They did not have any problems. They did not have anybody mocking at them, stopping them from doing such good work. they have always been. But their willpower is much stronger than any person who is going to come and stop them. So they have not given up and they will never give up. We have made progress in the last couple of decades, 10 years. We have reduced the number of drop out of school children by half. So a good changes have come. That's no, the children who are leaving the school, out of school, that has reduced, that has become half. That means more and more children are into school itself. We have reduced, mark this word, he's talking about reduced, not removed it. We have reduced the number of child labors by third. Means what children were into child labor earlier, that has reduced to now 1/3 of it. We have reduced child mortality, the death rate of children due to various reasons, one being malnutrition, no proper food and care. So that also has been reduced. And we have prevented millions of child deaths, stopped. So this all things have been taking place. But let us make no mistake, great challenges still remain. But that is not end. That is not what they want. They want this, all the freedom and all this thing for every child on this earth. So there is a challenge, and this challenge is not a small one. It's a great challenge still remaining. Friends, the biggest challenge or biggest crisis knocking on the doors of humankind is fear and intolerance. People have become intolerant. People are afraid to go and do the good things. We have utterly failed our children in imparting an education. So this education has not reached to all the children. An education that gives the meaning and objective of life. Why do we have to send children to school? Why everybody has to be educated? Because education gives meaning as well as objective to our life itself. You all have been learning. You all are in grade 10 now. You understand the difference between you and somebody who has not yet gone to school at all. Because now you are understanding what is the objective of your life. There is what is the meaning of life. So when this education does not reach to these children, the life itself remains incomplete. An education that gives a sense of global citizenship among the youth. An educated person will not have a narrow mind that my country or my state or this. We are talking about global citizenship. The whole world is one. I'm a global citizen. That is what you get the feeling when you are educated. I'm afraid that the day is not very far away when the cumulative result of this failure, cumulative means again and again this failure is happening, no? It is not reaching to the education, not reaching to all the children, and this is happening again and again. Will culminate, it will take the peak, high point, means one point, highest point will come, that with an unprecedented violence, unprecedented, never seen before, is afraid that something like this will happen, a big violence will erupt out of all of a sudden because of this cumulative result of failure. And that will be the suicidal for humankind. So it will not be for one or two people or not. This crisis will be for one country or other, but for all the people, the whole humankind itself. Rights, security, hope can only be restored through education. So when you are keeping the children away from school, are we not doing a sin? When we are not allowing them to understand or we are not giving them right and security and hope, what are we doing? Young people like Malala, he is Malala, I'm sure you must have heard about her or seen. I have started calling her my daughter Malala. See, in the beginning of the speech also, when he mentioned about her, he said, my daughter. He's not the biological father, but as a humankind, and they have the same interest, though she may be from another country, but then the work is same. So what is harm in addressing her as the daughter? So he's calling her my daughter Malala, and not just Malala. Malala and other daughters, including Kainat. He's saying two Kainats and Sazia and daughters from Africa and from all over the world. They are rising up and choosing peace over violence, tolerance over extremism, and courage over fear. What makes all these people different? Because they are choosing every time there is a decision that you have to make. Are you going to rise up, or are you going to go with the flow of the world? Are you going to choose peace, or are you going to remain timid? Are you going to take tolerance, or are you going to allow somebody to overpower you? Are you going to choose courage or fear? And this whole people have chosen the right thing, and therefore they make the difference in the whole universe. The solutions are emerging, coming out. But these solutions cannot be found in the deliberations in conferences. Deliberation means long discussions. He's saying that this discussion, this solution cannot come after big conferences, and then they will decide what you have to do. He is against that. And he's saying that it cannot be found in the prescriptions from the distance. You cannot sit here and talk about, oh, these children from Africa are having this problem. Let's find this may be the solution. You cannot do that. He's saying they lie in small groups and local organizations and individuals who are facing the problem every day. Whoever is facing this problem, the same people, the same local people need to find the solutions. Even if they remain unacknowledged, unrecognized, and unknown to the world, the solutions are with them. So the solution is more important than whether they are acknowledged or they are recognized or they are awarded or not awarded. Yes, children? Wasn't it an inspiring lesson? We have more of it in the second part. Till then, goodbye.